All right, Rocket sports fans, we're here with another show, and we're going to talk about the boys basketball team who got off of the runway last night and ran into the Marshals. That's a tough rodeo. It's tough bull to ride in the first rodeo, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. They're a very talented team. We knew it was going to be a challenge from the get-go, but that's what we're looking for. We're not going to back down from anybody. We don't care who they are. We're going to get out there and we're going to compete and give it everything that we got.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the Marshals. We'll talk about the outlook for the whole season as we get into the show here, presented by WHITETAIL Properties, and of course all of our other fine sponsors who help us bring you our digital products here, which are H&H Home and Hardware, First United Bank, La Delicia Mexican Restaurant, Farmers Bank and Trust Company, Frazer Law Firm, C-Plant Federal Credit Union, YTG Insurance, that's Tanner Tabor, your local agent here, Rocket Tire, and Bobby Stinnett Used Cars, that's Sean Stinnett. Big Rocket fan. Front row Joe, man, he's always on the front row. Of course, those guys showed up at the girls' game last night. There's no JV girls' games this year, so the girls started at 6. They showed up halfway through the third quarter. So I think they came over to y'all's game in Marshall County afterwards.
They may have been there. Of course,
That's what they said.
We were right in the middle of it, so it was kind of hard to kind of pick out who was up in the stands.
A lot of orange around there too, blinds you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is a lot. Those chairbacks are all orange. Everything, the bleachers are all orange. I mean, it's a neat gym to play in for sure.
And very difficult. Very, very difficult over the years. A lot of good things have gone down there. Our guest, of course, Coach Matt Fraliex, first year with the Rockets. And we have Gabe Keller, a senior, and senior Jaxon Hatfield as well. Guys, we'll just, I think what we're going to do, let's just start out. We'll talk a little bit about Marshall County, then we'll get into the outlook for the season. So we'll start over here on this side. Jax, tell me what you saw last night out of your team against a very good Marshall County basketball team.
We fought and just showed that we weren't going to back down no matter who it is, and we're just going to come in and play until the final buzzer sounds.
I mean, you popped 11 threes, I think, 6 by Travis and 4 by your sophomore, Walker. And he had double. You had double. Truly. Yeah. So, Gabe, what was your feelings coming off that game? That's a tough game to start the season.
Is. They could shoot the ball. They were just really disciplined. They're a really disciplined team. And it was just a tough way to start, but we held with them for a while, and I think if we got another chance to play them late in the season, I think we could beat them for sure.
Yeah, it was a 10-point game at the half, and they kind of they're so deep too. I mean, they can wear you down. They've got so many kids coming off the bench that are just clones of the others. It's not like playing. Louisville Trinity or somebody like that right out of the chute, but they're pretty good. I'm not sure if Trinity's even good in basketball anymore. Who's the top basketball? Scott County? I don't know. Who's number one in the state? I'm not
Great
sure.
Crossings. It kind of depends on what poll you look at. You either got Great Crossings, or you got another school that's 30
down the road.
30 minutes down the road.
So they're number 2 in a lot of polls. Aren't
they're
they?
1 or 2. It's usually them two. Is 1 and 2 kind of.
We'll talk a little bit about Lyon County in a minute too, because we will see them two times at least this year, and probably more. So, Coach Fraliex, it's your first game as head coach. You go down and play the Big Orange in Marshall County. You got to be proud of the way these boys hung in there, though.
I was. Kind of the whole culture of the team is that it's just this blue-collar group of kids that come in every day, that are going to give you everything that they got, that want to soak up as much information as they can, but at the same time are going to challenge each other and push each other to be better every day. And so as a coaching staff, what we've tried to implement is that kind of culture, and that's exactly what we saw last night. I told them, I said, I felt at halftime, we were down 10, but I told them if you take away the first 2 minutes of the game where they came in and popped 3 threes real quick, and they weren't wide open threes. They were contested. They were well contested shots, and they just hit them. I told them you take away those first 2 minutes where we were down 9-0, then you played toe to toe with them for the rest of the half, and so that was something definitely to hang your hat on, to show that you can do it. You can play with anybody. And so I was real proud of that fact that they didn't back down because, that could be easy. First game of the season, boom, 2 minutes into it, you're down 9-0. You can just kind of pack up and say, let's just try to stop the bleeding as best we can. But no, these boys fought, and we're within 10 to 12 till about most way through the third quarter. And then kind of like what you mentioned earlier, I think their depth just kind of got to us a little bit. It was,
tired.
well, we're running about 7, 8, 9 deep, whereas they went 10 to 12, and they were running guys in and out as quite a bit. But and their size kind of affected us a little bit. They got a couple of big kids, but it wasn't like they had one guy that just really just dominated. If you looked at their stat line, I think one kid had 18, one had 12, a couple of them had 12, then there was 10. So it was kind of a balanced attack, and that's going to be something that the more that these guys continue to play together, the more you're going to see that start to happen. Obviously with Travis and Bryson, they had a really great game. Yeah. And so we're just kind of right now looking for that third piece, fourth piece that's going to come in and get 10, maybe 12, but we've got several guys that are well capable of that. And so it was definitely a hard challenge on night one, but I felt it was something that we needed to really kind of prep us for Friday. Because now that we know that we can play with one of the best teams in the first region, it gives us that kind of boost of confidence knowing that we've got a district game coming up on Friday. Yeah. So now we got 3 days of practice to really kind of prep for it.
Yeah, down at Livingston Central on Friday night, open the district. It's tough to start playing your district games right here in week one, but here it is. It's right on us. Of course, you mentioned Travis Champion had 30 last night at Marshall County, and Bryson Walker, just a sophomore, first year to start. He may have started a game or two last year. I don't know, but as far as being a regular starter in there, a fixture on the floor, he had 18. Really nice night for him. And you get these other guys mixed in here. And who are you looking for? Let's just kind of start talking about your season and who's going to fit in where. We know those two guys are going to score, and they did. Who's the other fellas you're looking to fill it up this year?
Well, 2 of them are sitting right over here next to me to my left. It's just going to take with me being the third coach in 3 years. They're learning a whole new system, a whole new set of routines and procedures and sets and things like that. So the biggest thing is that we haven't had our football guys because they had a great football season. So we've been together for about 2 weeks. Going on 3. And so it's just going to take time of getting in the gym, working together, playing games, getting into as much scrimmage time as we can in practice, And so, these 2 right here, I know especially are going to continue to improve and, kind of fit in with the roles that we see them doing. Jackson's one of our big energy guys when it comes on the defensive end. That's where he helps us big time, is that he gets that energy. He had a great defensive game last night. Was up against Staples, who was one of the top players in the first region. We put him on Staples, and he did a really good job on him. And then Gabe is figuring out. I know Gabe's been kind of a guy that's come off the bench in his career, and this year he's stepping into a starter's role where he's one of the first 5 that go out there. And so he's going to continue to improve, and he's going to continue to learn what his role and his expectations are. And then we got guys like Cameron Belcher, and we got Jonah Reddick, and you got Braden Poindexter, and you've got KT, Caden Travis, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but we've got several other guys that are going to be continuing to improve, continuing to get more comfortable as the more that they play, the more time that they have within the system. So that way, as the season progresses, you're going to see roles continue to develop. And it's not going to be a one set. And I told this with the guys, I'm not going to have a one-set starting 5. It's not like these are the 5 guys that we run with. It could depend on whether we're playing a smaller team or a larger team, depending on what we need to go with. You got guys like Cameron and Jaxon and Turner Sharp, who's another senior who had a really decent defensive game last night. Turner's continuing to learn his offensive roles, but Turner did a good job last night, I felt, as well. So it's just going to take them becoming more familiar with what their expectations are and what their roles are. But, I've got really 9 guys that are fighting for 5 spots on the basketball floor. And as a first-year coach, that's a good problem to have, and it's led by 4 seniors, which is an even better problem to have, is that you got these 4 guys that have played basketball together for a long time. They've played basketball just itself for a while. So there a lot of stuff you can kind of step back and let them figure it out. But it's going to be a fun season. That's one of the things that I've told especially these seniors, is that it's the last go around for them. And so we want them to play hard every night that we're out there. We want them to play smart. We want them to play together. But most importantly, we just want them to have fun. Because if we allow them to get too much into the emotions of things or things like that, you can take the fun out of it.
Yeah.
And so basketball has always been a fun sport to play. I know for me, I loved getting to play it, and so I'm hoping to kind of pass that on to these guys. And you saw it last night in glimpses. There were guys that were cheering for each other. The bench was clapping, and it was, you wouldn't have been able to tell we were down 15-20 in the game. You would have thought it was neck and neck, and that's just how these guys are. And it was one of the things that drew me to this job when it came open, was like, that's just a great group of kids to get to work with, a great school system, and a community to be a part of.
So, your fifth starter down at Marshall was who?
We had
These two guys.
and then Turner Sharp was the fifth starter.
Yeah. Then you've got
We got
I think
Jonah,
Cameron,
Cameron, and Braden
Came off the
Poindexter
bench.
were the other four that came off the
Yeah.
bench.
And you mentioned about having fun playing the game, and of course you played. A great player over at Caldwell County. Was it 2,941 points in his career? That's an attaboy. That's a pretty strong career. I don't care where you're playing. It's well over the scoring record at Crittenden County, which is 1,822.
Held by my buddy Tim Hill.
Timmy Hill, yeah. And Travis Champion is, barring catastrophe, he will become the all-time leading scorer at some point this year, probably in later January. Of course, if he keeps putting 30 up a night, it's going to close it down pretty quick. But for the preview that we had in the newspaper, you talked about how, it's really a good fit this year. It would be any year, but this year in particular, with you coming in, having lived through that, chasing that scoring record. It's like, Roger Maris hitting the 61, home runs in a season. You hear all this stuff about all these major pro athletes and how their hair falls out because they're so, caught up and anxious about what's going on as they chase these major milestones. And you got Travis here chasing this, and so you're good mentor for him to have.
Yeah, and the thing about Travis is that Travis doesn't focus on that kind of thing. He doesn't focus on what can I get. It's for him. It's never, he himself is never the number one in his mind. He's always thinking about how can he make Gabe or Jaxon or Turner or Jonah or Cameron, or Bryson, how can he make that guy better? Mm-hmm. And that's something that he's been really, in one-on-one conversations that we've had, especially in practices, is that he's kind of been working on his facilitating. He'll make passes that sometimes he would take a shot normally. Mm-hmm. And, I'm like, okay, what are you doing? Why didn't you take the wide open shot? And he'll go, I'm trying to work on finding somebody else. And that's just the kind of player that Travis is that he's not a selfish player. He's not I want to go get my stats kind of guy. He's going to try to do everything that he can to make his teammates better. And he's not going to be the kind of kid that just tries to play on the offensive end. Because a lot of times when you see guys that set scoring records, is that's the only time they show up on the floor is when it's on the offensive end. Mm-hmm. Travis has really worked on his defensive game, and he did a really good job last night defensively playing against guys. They tried to drive on him, he'd cut him off. He used his length, which is something else that he's been blessed with. I think he's grown a little bit from last year, but he's a good player to have leading your program, and it's a good one for your younger players to see what it takes to try and be as successful as possible. And it kind of goes, in fact, with all of these seniors, is that they put in the work, they show up. I tell them, hey guys, we're going to be doing this at this time. These guys are there sometimes before I get there. So it goes to show you that they want to get better and they want to improve, and that's just the whole group.
Mm-hmm. You guys talk a little bit about what it's like playing. 20 years from now, you'll be sitting around with your grandchildren, and they'll be saying, "Oh, tell me, Dad, about when you played, or Grandpa, when you played basketball," and you will say, "Hey, I played with a guy that scored more points than anybody in the history at the time." Records are always made to be broken. So what's it like playing at Jaxon? With Trav and him having this.
It's just you just never think that you're out of the game when you're playing with him, because he can always get hot and just down at halftime, it's just like, all right, Travis is gonna come in and hit his shots, and it's just fun to play with, and he just wants to win. He doesn't even. That's when he gets on his rolls and stuff. That's just him trying to come back and lead the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you see, Gabe?
Yeah, I think he's definitely a really good leader because it doesn't matter if we're down 30, if we're down 60. He's always gonna.
Or
He's
up 30
gonna,
or up 60.
Up 30, up 60. He's always going to try to get us back in the game, and he does. And he just, whenever he has the ball in his hands, I just feel like something good's going to happen.
Yeah, it usually does. It usually does. I can't remember. Was it 2 years ago maybe at Livingston County? Was it the Downey boy put up like 50 points or something, and Travis had like 47 or 48. It was like incredible show. I can't remember the exact numbers, but that escapes me. We're going to take just a brief pause here and run some of our commercials, and we'll be right back, and we'll talk more about the outlook for the Rockets in 2023-24. We'll see you in just a moment. All right, we're back, and we're going to get a little deeper into this Rocket roster. We've kind of hit the high points, talked about the guys you're going to see on the floor a great deal during varsity games. But then your depth and your JV team, Coach, let's talk a little bit about those guys. I'll just let you go from here and tell us some of their names and what their special assets are.
Well, we've got kind of this group right here that we've mentioned previously where they are kind of the veterans. They're the ones that have been playing for a while. And then we kind of have this whole other group that are, for the most part, are newcomers. Mm-hmm. They're guys that either haven't played since middle school or maybe haven't played before that wanted to try out and, impress the coaching staff during their tryouts. We've got guys like Andrew Candelario, who's a junior. He came in last year. I know he tried out. I don't think he made the team. But he came in this summer and just put in a whole lot of work. Was in there all the time. I think he hung out with Bryson quite a bit and was trying to just be in the gym as much as he could to work on his shot. He's a lefty. And so, that's one of his strong points is that his ability to shoot the ball, especially from outside. But the thing about Andrew is that he's learning. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be the same kind of thing with all of these guys that we're getting ready to mention is that they're going to have to continue to learn. So JV games, freshman games, you're going to see where it's them getting reps, them trying to get as many reps as they can. So that way next year when, obviously, unfortunately, we lose these guys, they'll be a year into the system and they're going to be that much more familiar with it. Then we got guys like Dawson Jones, Ethan Rhodes, Matt Conger, who all kind of came out this year, and they're all juniors. As well, and so they kind of
are those all first-time basketball players?
Yeah, they play pickup and all that, but this is their first year.
First year on the team.
Mm-hmm.
First year, like as organized basketball players, and so the thing about Dawson, Ethan, and Matt is that they all kind of came in together at tryouts when it was time for them to try out, and they showed some just natural talent to be able to play. There's a couple of them that have kind of distanced themselves from the others just because of sheer athletic ability. But a lot of it comes back to the IQ. The IQ is just not really there, so they're just continuing to learn, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not putting them down. It's just like, hey, you got to continue to learn. Then you got guys like that are sophomores, like Jay Stevenson, who transferred in from Caldwell last year. Unfortunately, due to the KHSA ruled that he couldn't play varsity sports this year. But and that's something I sat down with him and told him this could be a good thing for you. Is that you don't have to be worried about being forced into a varsity game, maybe not being ready. Now you can focus on JV. You can focus on learning the system and learning a role and doing the best that you can. So that way, next year when you're eligible to play, you're ready to go. And then we've got some. Then another sophomore that we've got is Michael Counts. He came in after football season was over. He's got a big body, and again, he's one where he's continuing to learn. Hasn't played since middle school, so he's a few years removed from it, and it's not like riding a bike where you just pick it back up and you just go again. There are things you got to relearn. You got to teach your body new things. So he's continuing to improve, and then we were lucky enough to be able to snag 3 freshmen, because when I got the job, we had no freshmen.
Yeah.
We had 0, incoming freshmen, and I was concerned about that, so I kind of hit the recruiting trail a little bit.
Rattle some lockers around the
It's like, we got any freshmen that are interested in playing, and we ended up getting Brady Dayberry first. He was the first one that reached out and said he wanted to come try out. Enjoyed it, liked what was being done in the practices and in the workouts. And after that, Logan Martin came in, and Logan is another one, continuing to improve. And then after football season, Davis Perryman, who's another freshman, came in. And the thing about Davis is he's got some raw talent, some raw athletic ability, and we're just going to have to kind of fine tune it to being able to play on the basketball floor. It's while our varsity roster is not necessarily deep, we do have a deep roster, I would say. We're looking at about 18 kids, which for a Class A school, having 18 kids is a lot. And I think some of that comes back to the fact of the kind of kids that are already in the program. You got guys that want to come be around them. They want to hang out with them. They want to practice with them. They want to work out with them. And that just goes back to this, just what these guys have built in their careers. And so hopefully as my tenure continues as the coach going into, and I kind of joke around, I use this phrase, I call it Shannon Hodge longevity.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to be here for a long time, whereas even these guys' kids play for me one day down the road. And so that's something, I'd love to be around for a long time, to where we can, and I've told these guys as the seniors, they're going to be the foundation as to what this program is going to become. And it's a great group of guys to have as your foundation pieces.
Talk just a little bit about your assistant coaches, because fans will be in Rocket Arena, and it's a whole new staff this year. Other than Big D, other than Devin Belt, everybody will recognize Big D down there. But you got your dad and then an old high school buddy helping you. Talk about them.
Yeah, my main assistant coach, the JV coach, is Coley Rogers. He's the son of Roy Gene Rogers, who a lot of people from this area will know. Roy Gene was a longtime educator in the Caldwell County school system. Played at Fredonia as well alongside my dad. And, Coley and I were high school teammates. Not only high school teammates, but from elementary school all the way to senior year, played ball together. And Coley and I were kind of that 1-2 punch. It was, if I had 30, he had 25 or 30. If I had, 35, or if I had 25 or so, he'd be in the 30s. So, Coley was one of those guys that was I'm never going to call him a Batman to a Robin to a Batman. It was just a 1-2 punch. And he was a great defender, which was one of the things that I knew when I was trying to form the staff. I needed somebody who was going to be able to understand how to teach defense in a really good way. And he spent a lot of years helping his dad, especially with Special Olympics. And he's done, Youth Incorporated over there for a lot of years, and done sessions and drills where he's worked with kids. So I know his basketball IQ is still pristine. And he's also a top-notch guy, a good Christian guy. And I wanted people, for these young men, to be able to look at and say, these are guys that I can look up to. Then I've got Devin Belt, a well-known name to, all Crittenden Countyans. He's also our baseball coach, and I knew that I needed somebody that was going to help be able to mentor the post players. I can do it. I understand how to coach a post player, but I wanted somebody that played the position and understands the little ins and outs and the nuances and how to read things. And so Devin is jumped on. When I asked him, I was like, would you be interested in? I said, I know that you're the baseball coach, so you got other responsibilities sometimes. But if you're interested in it, we'd love to have you. And he was more than willing to jump on and help out. So excited to have him. And then, of course, you got my dad. Dad's going to kind of be a lot of the statisticians for us. He's going to be the guy that really kind of helps when I'm looking at understanding, what lineups work really well together, what are their pluses and minuses, what what are we scoring with this group on? You know, do we start to lose points when this group is matched up? So that way, whenever we are trying to make our substitutions, we can be very aware of that.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, Dad has a tremendous basketball IQ, has spent his entire life around sports, was a well-known name for Fredonia when he was a member of the last graduating class of Fredonia, and as far as I know, he's the all-time leading scorer there. And so it's a great group of guys that I'm excited to be around, and I hope that these kids enjoy being around them as well. I feel like the four of us work really well together. We, like last night, I was able to turn around, ask advice, be like, hey, I'm thinking about putting this guy in this position. What do you all think? You know, and their immediate feedback is like, hey, yes, let's do it. Let's go with that. Or, hey, how about you try it this way? Or so they're a great group to work with.
And I tell you what, one more good player, and you'd have quite a little fivesome right there, wouldn't you?
I know.
Take on the world.
There was a couple of guys that I reached out to that are former players that were former great Rocket players, and unfortunately, just due to work circumstances, they couldn't commit to it. But it would have been great to have them as well. But maybe next year.
Yeah. So we'll kind of close things out, guys. First of all, let's go back to these guys that are out on the floor and talk a little bit. Coach mentioned it a few minutes ago. He's the third coach in 3 years. Of course, Dennis has been here forever almost, and then Coach Pig was in here for 1 year last year. Has it been a difficult transition? Just start over on your end, Hatfield.
Not too bad. Not what you'd think, because all three great coaches and great guys, so it's just kind of you get comfortable with them, learn or figure out what they want to do, how they think we're going to win games, and just try to do that. Do what they say. Be coachable.
Yeah. What are you experiencing, Gabe?
Everybody thinks it'd be a lot harder than it is. I think like the first 2 weeks of having a new coach is the hardest part. I think just learning the plays, and once you get that down and you understand how the coach coaches and what they expect of the players, then you're good to go. And once you understand that,
terminology can be a little different sometimes from coach to coach, and can you tell when he's mad at you? Can you tell when he's mad or just a little angry? Does he keep his cool pretty good?
Yeah.
That's just good. Good. Well, it's probably a little easier because you grew up in Fredonia. You speak the same language as Crittenden Countyans. It's not like we brought you in here on a plane from out west somewhere.
Right.
And you've alluded to the fact that this is where you want to make your home now. Of course, Fredonia's your home.
Right. This is one of the things. Like I said, it's even though it's a different right next door to Crittenden County is where Fredonia is located. I was always familiar with Crittenden County. Several of the guys that I played against from Crittenden County. You had Jacob Courtney over there. You had Gage that I played against, Josh Cosby. There were several guys, Logan Stout, who's moved away now. But, there were a lot of guys that I played against that, off the floor, we would talk and we'd be really good friends and everything. And it was just like, you wouldn't ever think that you were in rival schools. Yeah. But once we stepped on the floor, though, it was a different story. It was all about business. But I think that the community of Crittenden County is really special. It's been one that has been a very smooth transition for my family and myself. We've felt like it's been our home all along with the way that people have treated us. Whether it starts with the players and their families. I've had moms reaching out and everything saying, "Is there anything that we can do for you? If your kids are ever at a game and nobody can be there to watch them." We'll watch them. You just don't find that in other places where the parents are willing to help take care of your kids. Of course, I know one of my son. He's probably going to be on the bench. At least he was last night. He's going to be there cheering these boys on because to him these guys are idols.
Yeah,
and that's something that I kind of talk about them all the time. That you might not realize it, but you've got little eyes on you at all times. Mm-hmm. So the 5 pillars of our program is that we're going to have integrity, unity, passion, diligence, and appreciation. And so I always talk about those 5 pillars every day with them, and that making sure we're going to do things the right way and that we're going to represent not only ourselves and our families, but our school and our community in a positive way wherever it is that we go.
Yeah, that's important no matter what you're doing in this life, isn't it? Great. great ideals to live by. Coach, you've got the schedule right out of the chute. Livingston County now coming up after Marshall County. Then next week we have Webster County and Trigg, another district game. So you guys are going to have to roll up sleeves, get going. But it's that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
That's what we told them last night. I put up on the board in the locker room. I said, "This is game 1 of 31."
Yeah.
Right now, we're only guaranteed 31 games because we'll do 30 regular season games and then 1 game in the district.
Yeah.
But I told them it's a long road. So if there's something that goes well tonight, that's great. Let's continue to build on that. If something goes bad tonight, let's make sure that we learn from it so that we can fix it. And so that's what I told them. It's a long season, and so we're going to continue to improve. We're going to get better every day, and I don't have to worry about whether or not these guys are going to come ready. They are. I just got to make sure that I'm on my A game as the coach. So they're going to be ready to go. So as the coach, you got to make sure you're ready to go.
Well, we know you've got an A game, Coach Fraliex. You proved that when you were in school, and I know that that lends itself to a nice coaching career that's really just kind of getting started here in Crittenden County. And we're excited to have you here and excited to see these guys out today on the show for their senior year. And good luck. We'll see you on the floor week after week, and we'll try to get to know these players a little better through the show here. So appreciate them coming on. We will be again at Livingston County on Friday night for a district game. Do you know what the admission is? I always try to catch people up on that. I think they're probably GoFan.
I believe Livingston uses GoFan. Most schools in this area use GoFan now.
So that'll be a girls' game at 6 o'clock, boys' game right after that. And then next week Trigg will be here, right? The Trigg game is here next Friday night. We always have those district doubleheaders on Friday night, which is great. You can go out and have a little dinner and come out and watch it. Rockets and Lady Rockets. So appreciate these guys coming in. We'll see you at Rocket Arena.